How depression and PTSD reshape your brain, the hidden science. Opening hook. Have you ever wondered what depression or PTSD actually does to your brain? Is it just feeling sad or being afraid? Or does something deeper, more physical happen inside your head? Here's a critical question for you. If emotional pain leaves scars on the mind, could it also leave scars on the brain itself? Today, we're diving into the fascinating and often overlooked neuroscience behind depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. By the end of this video, you won't just understand these conditions emotionally, you'll see how they literally reshape the human brain. Section 1. It's not just in your head, it's in your brain. Let's get one thing clear. Depression and PTSD aren't just mental states you can snap out of. They involve real, measurable changes in brain structure, chemistry, and function. So, what happens when sadness or fear doesn't go away? What if your brain starts rewiring itself around those emotions? Scientists have discovered that both depression and PTSD leave a neural footprint, but they do it in different ways. Section 2. The hippocampus, where memories shrink. Here's a surprising fact. Both depression and PTSD can shrink your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory and stress regulation. But here's the twist. Why does this happen? Chronic stress floods your brain with cortisol, a hormone meant to help in short bursts. But when cortisol stays high, it becomes toxic, especially to the hippocampus. In depression, this leads to memory issues and feeling stuck in a mental fog. In PTSD, a smaller hippocampus means your brain struggles to separate past danger from present safety, which explains why harmless triggers can cause flashbacks. Now ask yourself, how would life feel if your brain couldn't properly tell the difference between a memory and a threat? That's daily reality for many living with PTSD. Section 3. The amygdala. The brain's alarm system gone rogue. Let's talk about your brain's alarm system, the amygdala. In PTSD, this little structure is like a smoke detector that's way too sensitive, going off at the slightest hint of danger, even when there's none. But here's a critical insight. In depression, the amygdala doesn't scream danger. Instead, it amplifies negative emotions. It reacts more strongly to sadness, rejection, or criticism. So while PTSD keeps you hyper-alert to threats, depression traps you in a cycle of emotional pain. Here's a question worth reflecting on. What if your emotional responses weren't fully under your control because your brain's wiring was working against you? Section 4. The prefrontal cortex. When the brain CO goes offline. Think of the prefrontal cortex as your brain says it makes decisions, regulates emotions, and tells the amygdala to calm down. In both depression and PTSD, this CEO is either weakened or understaffed. Brain scans show that this area literally shrinks and becomes less active over time. That's why people with these conditions often say, "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help it." It's not a lack of willpower, it's biology. When your brain's control center loses strength, emotions take over. Here's a challenge for you. How would you manage your life if your brain's decision maker was running on low battery every day? Section 5. Depression's trap, the default mode network. Here's where depression gets sneaky. It hijacks something called the default mode network, the part of your brain active when you're lost in thought. In healthy brains, this network powers down when you focus on tasks. But in depression, it stays on, fueling endless cycles of rumination. Those repetitive, negative thoughts you can't seem to shut off. Ever caught yourself replaying failures or worrying about the future on loop? That's not just overthinking. It could be your brain's wiring trapping you. Ask yourself this. How much of your mental exhaustion comes from fighting your own thoughts, rather than the world around you? Section 6. PTSD's hyperdrive, living in survival mode. Now, PTSD tells a different story. While depression pulls you inward, PTSD pushes you into constant survival mode. Your brain floods with norepinephrine, the fight-or-flight chemical. At the same time, cortisol levels paradoxically drop, leaving your body stuck in high alert without the brakes to calm down. It's like driving a car with the accelerator jammed and no functioning brakes. This explains why PTSD sufferers often feel exhausted but can't relax. Their brains are wired to scan for threats 24/7. So here's another critical question. If your brain believed danger was always around the corner, how would you ever feel safe? Even in your own home? Section 7. Adolescence, when trauma meets a growing brain. What about young people? Did you know that depression and PTSD can alter brain development in adolescence? Teens with these conditions often show delayed or disrupted growth in key brain areas like the prefrontal cortex. This means emotional regulation problems can last longer, unless early intervention steps in. Consider this. If the brain is still building itself during adolescence, how might untreated trauma shape the adult that teen becomes? This is why mental health care isn't just treatment, it's prevention. Section 8. Can the brain heal? The hope in neuroplasticity. Now for the good news. Your brain is not static. Thanks to something called neuroplasticity, the brain can rewire and rebuild. Studies show that therapy, medication, mindfulness, exercise, even meaningful social connection can reverse some of the structural and functional changes caused by depression and PTSD. For example, hippocampal volume can increase with the treatment. The prefrontal cortex can regain activity. The amygdala can become less reactive. Here's a powerful thought. What if every positive habit you build isn't just good for you, but is literally reshaping your brain for resilience? Closing reflection and call to action. So, what's the takeaway? Depression and PTSD are not signs of weakness. They are reflections of a brain under siege. But understanding the science gives us power. Power to seek help, power to be compassionate with ourselves and others, and power to believe that change is possible. Ask yourself, if your brain can be shaped by pain, can it also be shaped by purpose? If this video gave you a new perspective, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the brain is wired to survive, but it's also wired to heal. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep growing with MindFlow Balance Channel. End screen call to action. Comment your thoughts below. How has understanding the brain changed how you view mental health? Subscribe for more insights into the mind and science-backed strategies for resilience.